Welcome to Bible Answers for Today, where we discuss God's creation and how to defend our faith. I'm your host, Mike Riddle, and our challenge question for today is, did God use evolution? Many in the church today, including church leaders and some of our Christian university professors, are under the belief that God did use evolution or parts of evolution, including billions of years. By making this claim, they have attempted to make peace with the world. You see, if God used evolution, then we can believe in both the Bible and we can believe in evolution, and we can all just live in harmony on this issue. Well, let's examine this belief, God used evolution, and what it really means. Point one is history. As Christians, we should not make the statement God could have used evolution. You see, it's not a matter of what God could have done. It's a matter of what did He do, and we cannot change history. What and how God created are stated in Genesis chapter 1. Genesis 1 clearly states that God created everything in 6 literal days. In addition, Exodus 20 verse 11 also states that God created in 6 days, where we read, "For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it." So Genesis 1, along with Exodus 20 verse 11, both declare that God created everything in 6 days and not millions of years. Point 2 is logic. The statement God used evolution is illogical. Why is this? In logic, there are laws of logic. One of these laws is the law of non-contradiction. This law states that contradictory statements cannot both be true in the same sense at the same time. Now let's examine the order of created events in the Bible with the order claimed by the evolutionist. In the Bible, it states that God created the earth on day 1 and the stars on day 4. Notice the order, earth first, then stars. However, evolutionists claim the stars evolved first, then the earth. These are opposite order. The Bible declares that God created the flying creature, the birds, on day 5 and the reptiles, land animals, on day 6. However, evolutionists claim reptiles evolved first, then the birds. Those are opposite. The Bible declares that this earth started as a watery mass. Evolution teaches that it started as a molten hot mass. Then the Bible states that land plants were created on day 3 and the sun on day 4. However, evolutionists teach the sun evolved first, then came the land plants. And finally, the Bible teaches man was here first, then came death. However, evolutionists teach millions of years of death, then came man. This shows that the Bible and evolution are both opposites. And there are only 2 ways we could have gotten here. Either we were created by God or we evolved over millions of years. Now, based on the law of non-contradiction, the conclusion is one of these has to be true and the other one has to be false. They cannot both be true, or we have to abandon logic. Now, point 3, biblical implications. Let's go through 7 points on this one. If God used evolution, the plain reading of Scripture in Genesis 1 cannot be understood. In Genesis 1, the word day is specifically used for time. The days are sequentially numbered, and each day is given a specific beginning and ending by the phrase evening and morning. Now, a challenge to understanding Genesis 1 would be this. If you were to rewrite Genesis 1 so that everybody would clearly understand that creation took place in 6 days, what would you change? Probably nothing. But if you were to rewrite Genesis 1 so that everybody clearly understood creation took millions of years, what would you change? Well, you wouldn't use the word day. You also would not use the phrase evening and morning. In other words, you'd have to do a lot of rewriting. If God used evolution, that would mean millions of years of death and disease before sin. This changes the very foundation for the gospel because sin is no longer the cause of death. If God used evolution, then God would have called millions of years of death and suffering very good in Genesis 1:31. If God used evolution, then commandment number 4 in Exodus 20 verse 11 is not true. If God used evolution, then Jesus was wrong in Mark 10 verse 6 where he stated, "But from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female." Jesus is telling us that man and woman were on this planet from the beginning of creation, not after millions of years. If God used evolution, the Genesis flood would have to be a local flood and not a worldwide flood. If the flood was worldwide, then it is responsible for the fossil record and not evolution. And finally, if God used evolution, then logic is no longer valid or the Bible needs to be rewritten. We have answered the challenge, did God use evolution? God's creation is exactly as described in the Bible, 6 literal days and not millions of years. Now we will leave you with this final scripture because it is very appropriate for the topic we've gone through today, and it comes from 2 Timothy 4, 3 and 4. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears. They will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables.